A discussion about Warhammer Cities of Sigmar coming up next. Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Trevor Slescu. I'm the owner of Monster Hobbies in High River, Alberta, Canada. And of course I am a independent retailer of Games Workshop merchandise and products. Anyway, Games Workshop, there has been some pictures and talk going around about a new book they plan on bringing out called The Cities of Sigmar. So apparently, this is all a bit of speculation because this book is coming out much later from when this video is coming out, which is hopefully going to be like in the next day or so. Anyway, by the time you're watching it, that day or so has already gone by in this video. Anyway, no, but seriously, okay, so this book is coming out and it's called The Cities of Sigmar, and there is a photo of it, which I'll show here. Okay, so that is the cover of the book right there. And apparently the idea is that there have been some books published by Black Library and whatnot, and you know, the story of Gore-Tex, or Gotrex, sorry, the dwarf from the Slayer guy from Gore-Tex and Felix, that book and all that sort of stuff, that series, and now he's been sort of reborn, voiced by Brian Blessed, Brian, the Dwarfs of Zufba. Anyway, so yeah, so that happened. So now where I'm going with this is that there has also been a picture of Gotrex that has been circulating around as well. So there's much speculation on the Cities of Sigmar at this point. Again, no one really knows. Oh, there is another photo where it shows, I do believe it's like a Glade Guard guy, one of the Dispossessed warriors or something, and then some other guy. There's like three of them, and they're all painted in the same kind of color for clothing, you know. So there's sort of a speculation about that going on. So, oh, and then the other part of this is, pardon me, this was taken off of the internet. Sorry, I'm out of blue ink, so it printed up red. It's supposed to be black, but color printers, you know. This is a list. Here we go, that's a bit better. This is a list of models that have been cut or discontinued. Games Workshop has said they're never going to make these again. So, so there's been a lot of like this outcry of crying sort of thing going on about the guys that are being cut off the team, as it were. Now, I play Dispossessed. Back here, I've got like all kinds of different boxes. There's Fire Slayers there, and I've been collecting Dispossessed. I'm a big dwarf player, and I haven't tried my Fire Slayers yet. There's a guy in the store that is really good with them, but I just love the look of the old Dispossessed. So I'm getting, oh, and IronWheeled Arsenal is, of course, the guns and everything. So I'm getting actually 4 models cut off my team, as well as the cannon and organ gun removed from the IronWheeled Arsenal. So this is a list and of partial list. I know there's more models coming off of this, because don't forget that some of these models, like the Sky Cutter Chariot, you can build as 2 different things, but they're cutting the Sky Cutter so that the other model, the other variation is going with it, you know. So like the organ gun and the cannon is actually the same model. So when they get rid of that, they get rid of the 2, you know, this kind of thing. So not everything is on here, but these are what they have. Okay. The Spellweaver, the Gunmaster, the Waywatcher, the Lore Master, the Wayfinder, the Unforged, the Warrior Priest, the Free Guild Archers, the Feel Good Archers, Free Guild Archers, White Lion Chariot. I always liked that model, but I never got it. Can't get it now. Archmage, Dragon Noble, Dragon Blades, Thunderers, Quarrelers, which are my guys, the Glade Guard, the Dispossessed Warriors, the Swordmasters, the White Lions, the Dragon Lord, the Arch Lector on War Altar of Sigmar, that's a mouthful, the Sky Cutter, the Waystrider, the Witch Hunter, the Organ Gun, the Cannon, and the Freegale General. And I know there's a few more on here. If you go on to the Games Workshop website right now, and you check out, what is it called? Last Chance to Buy, you'll see the ones that are missing off that list. So anyway, what I've been thinking of is, I know a lot of guys are upset with the cuts, and I'll miss my warriors. Like I've got, I went home after I, looked at what was no longer going to be available. So I weeded out all the dwarves and stuff and IronWheeled Arsenal, that I have left, and I put them into a new box. So you're talking about a guy that has, like the file folder boxes that are like that big by so wide and whatever. I've got boxes that are about 2 inches longer and 2 inches wider of those style boxes that are full. One of them is just like infantry, foot warriors, and generals and stuff for the Dispossessed. And then I've got a box that's full of the Dwarden guys, like that got cut, from 2015, everybody had a Warscroll. And then when they did the first revision in 2016, they cut a whole bunch of guys off the team, right? So like Thoric Iron Bro, all those guys from my army. They cut them and they put them into Compendium, which are now part of extra, whatever they call it in the 2019 General's Handbook. So anyway, so once again, the idea of this this thing is, okay, wait, I'm losing my stream of thought here. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, in 2015, we got 4 books. This is the Grand Alliance Order, there was a Grand Alliance Death, Grand Alliance Destruction, and Grand Alliance Chaos. Now, through the development of Age of Sigmar, like, it came out in 2015, was totally raw, unedited, uncut, no points, all the rest, right? Then 16, they brought in points and they got rid of a few models. They tried to figure out a way that they were going with this stuff. Actually, I think this came out in 16. I can't remember. Anyway. And then 17, they refined it a bit more. And 18, they refined it a bit more, brought in some spells and all kinds of cool stuff. And 19, General's Handbook has come around once more. Last year we got Malign Sorceries, and we got the big core book. So, Age of Sigmar, Games Workshop has been doing the best they can to bring us all this stuff and to bring the game from that raw 2015 where everyone was like, I still like Warhammer Fantasy, they killed the world, all this stuff, right? They brought it from that up to something that's usable. Now, part of the problem that we had is we had these books. And now for us guys that like the older models, didn't want to adapt and buy, Fire Slayers or Sigmarines or, whatever else, right? I shouldn't call them Sigmarines. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. They took some of the old armies, like Seraphon, they updated that. Some of these guys, like Fire Slayers, they got 2 book revisions and all the rest. But us guys that like the old Dispossessed and the Eldritch Council and all this kind of stuff, we had to keep using the old War Scrolls. Now, mind you, there was some stuff that got added, like, the back of your General's Handbook. You get, like, Allegiance Abilities, Wanderers, Allegiance Abilities, Dispossessed. So GW was doing their best to kind of keep these armies, current and kind of with what was going on with the rest of the thing. But a lot of them, when they did that split up in 2016 and they came up with this, there was a lot of clunkiness to it. Well, my lights are just too bright to catch it. So here's what we got here in this. Now keep in mind, some of these armies got their own books, but I'll just read them out. So we got Stormcast Eternals, Extremist Chambers, which is like an offshoot of the Stormcast Eternals, the guys that ride the big dragons, right? Then there's Seraphon, the Sylvaneth, which got pulled out of the original Wood Elves, because remember, they were like Wood Elves with some tree dryads and whatever, and then Sylvaneth became their own army, Wanderers. Wood Elves became the Wanderers, whatever was left, that kind of thing. Fire Slayers, Devoted of Sigmar, Okay, so this is where it gets into the old stuff. So we got Devoted of Sigmar, which were all the witch hunters and those dudes. The Free Peoples, the Collegiate Arcane, which is the magic guys from Empire, I guess it was, right? And then IronWheeled Arsenal. They tried to merge all the gunpowder type stuff and the gyrocopters and all that into one unit. And then we got the Dispossessed, the Eldritch Council, which is your High Elves, former High Elves, the Phoenix Temple, the Lion Rangers, the Order Draconis, the Swifthawk Agents. Now, I've got a guy that plays, or used to play High Elves in Fantasy, that adapted into this, and that was his biggest gripe with it. They took all the High Elf stuff and they went slice, 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 like you do with a cucumber, and all this stuff was broken into so many pieces, and it was like, you know, when you looked in the... Okay, so they broke it in the new General's Handbook. But anyway, when you went and looked at the pitch battle profiles, and this should still be the same in here. Let me just find it. Okay, so you got, like, here's the Lion Rangers, which were the White Lion Chariot and the White Lions. Their battlefield role is blank, so they fall in as other. But you can't make up a huge whopping army that's got like 500 lion chariots and 500 white lions ready to rip across the battlefield and destroy it, because there's only two things going on there, and none of them are leader and none of them are battle line. So they're not even fieldable, you know, unless you have them as an ally. And then you get into the ally table here. And this is another sort of problem with what's going on, and why in my opinion, I believe that Age of Sigmar is making this Cities of Sigmar, because all this stuff is despondent. It's like unconnected. So here it's got, you know, the allies. So you're going Phoenix Temple. Okay, you got the Phoenix Temple. So they can ally with the Eldritch Council, the Lion Rangers, the Order Draconis, the Stormcast. Everybody aligns with the Stormcast Eternals. So Swifthawk Agents, Sylvaneth, and the Wanderer. So the Order Draconis can be allies with all those guys, but the Order Draconis cannot be allies with the Caradron Overlords or the Fire Slayers or the Free People or anybody else other than basically what was the High Elves. But even then, like a lot of this stuff, it doesn't, for the High Elves or former High Elf players, it doesn't gel into anything. There's no battle line. There's no, you know, it's just like, yeah, here's models. Narrative play, you're fine. Match points in a tournament, you can't really do it, right? And that's the problem we have with this. Now keep in mind though, this book is from like 15, 16. We're now in 19. So the guys that like the old stuff had to struggle kind of with busted up armies. Some of them worked. Dispossessed was okay. But like I said, you know, the Elders Council and the Collegiate Arcane or like all these guys, they can't work. They can't function the way they are. So, to shuffle up the deck and make this better, Games Workshop has decided to turn these into the Cities of Sigmar. So now, like, as you read through the lore in these books, right, they're always talking about there's some city of light where all the former, races of order meet. So you've got like a city, of course, where it's got some guys from the old empire, some guys from the high elves, some guys from the dwarf army, some guys from, dispossessed, Dwardens, whatever, right? They're all in this city. So this is the whole thing. What are the changes and what's going on? So I grouped up that list of all these guys that are. Okay, sorry about that, folks. My batteries ran out, so I had to spend half an hour recharging them. I hope I haven't lost my train of thought. Anyway, what I was going to say is I'm kind of glad that they're coming out with this new Warhammer Cities book because, like I was saying, this book has been a bit outdated now that a lot of the armies on the back here have actually got their own books and many other books. And again, it was a bit lopsided and a bit, unoperable of a lot of the little armies that they created. Like Order Draconis, Swifthawk Agents. They were cool ideas, but they couldn't really gel together properly. And that's sort of why I'm excited with this new Cities of Sigmar book that's going to be coming out sometime, because I think Games Workshop has recognized that there was a big issue while us guys with the old style armies in the new world were trying to work it all out. While, guys like the Stormcast Eternals and the Fire Slayers and Idoneth Deepkin and all the rest were either becoming new armies specifically designed for Sigmar or, brand new armies that got revised a few times between their initial release in 2015 to now. So this is what is a good part about this, is that our old armies are getting an update and they're actually getting brought into the Age of Sigmar type world where they should really be. So this is the first actual revision we've got since 2015, and I think the idea is that they're cutting certain figures out of it, or units out of the game, because they are trying to merge everything into the cities. So all these different like elves, or elves, Dwarden, free peoples, and all the rest are now being funneled into an operative unit. Now, being a Dwarden player for all this time, it's sort of like certain elements I wanted to have. The Fire Slayers have the Magma Droths, which are like big monsters. Big monsters that can do a ton of damage, that can breathe fire, all this kind of stuff that are hard to kill with multiple wounds and all the rest. What do Dispossessed have? Dwarden with, save rolls of 5 up. Not enough punch to do anything, enough to hold lines and that sort of thing. But there's something missing, an element that's missing out of it. So, what can you do? You're dispossessed. Well, you could ally with the Fire Slayer, so you can get a Magma Droth, but then it's in your allies thing. So if you're playing tournaments and you got 1,000 points, you can only devote 200 to bringing in one of those allies. And maybe, I haven't looked at the points cost, maybe the Magma Droth is 235 points. Well, that's out. So Idoneth Deepkin, Caradhran Overlords, they might have a blimp or something you can borrow, or, a steamship, not a blimp. Anyway, but again, you can't really synchronize the gears and have a working army. And then, I don't even know what is in the elf type armies, because I can't ally with them. So there might be something there that's significant that I can't ally with. So here's the part with the cities. Now, the war scrolls for some of these models may be updated, and I don't know if Dispossessed is still going to be a thing, if Free People is going to be a thing, Wanderers and all that. I'm thinking, now let me know in the comments below what you think about this, but I'm thinking of if all these races are in cities now, they might remove all that stuff and just have the cities keyword or something to that effect, where maybe it's more fancy, right? Cities of Sigmar keyword. I don't know. Maybe something more fancy, but that basically means there's no more Dispossessed, there's no more Deepkin. There would still be Deepkin. It would be Dispossessed, Free Peoples, that kind of thing. There wouldn't be any of that existing anymore, which is really good if you think about it. Because that means that I could use something that was a former Empire model that's outside of the IronWheeled Arsenal that will work with merging in Dispossessed as well as elves or something else. So anyway, getting back to this, the dropped models. Now, I rewrote the list here, and I've broken it down into some groups here. So out of the Wanderers, the Spellweaver, the Waywatcher, the Wayfinder, the Gladeguard, and the Waystrider are gone. The Eldritch Council, I do believe, is completely dissolved, but it's the Lore Master, the Archmage, and the Sword Masters. The Lion Rangers are completely gone, so White Lion Chariot and the White Lions. The Order Draconis is gone, so the Dragon Noble, the Dragon Blades, and the Dragon Lord. The Swifthawk Agents, I just have the Skycutter, but I know there's some more, so I do believe those are gone. Devoted of Sigmar is pretty much finished, except for the Flagellants. Those guys are still around, but the Archlector on the War Altar of Sigmar is gone, the Witch Hunter is gone, and the Warrior Priest is gone. Of the Free Peoples, I know there's a few more, that because I've seen them, right? Which models are gone, I mean. We've got the Free Guild Archers, the Free Guild General, and there was some other guys too. Okay, and then we have the IronWheeled Arsenal. The Gunmaster is gone, so is the Organ Gun and the Cannon. And my Dispossessed, the Warriors, the Quarrelers, Thunderers, and Unforged are all gone. So now, looking at this, it's like, there is a total of, my notes here. Out of this list that was like somebody's iPhone thing, there are 26 models that are gone. And that's not including the models you can build two different ways for two different units, that kind of thing. So 26, just off that list, are gone. So that seems significant, like a big blow to the Warhammer universe. But when you really look at what they've cut, what guys don't make the team anymore, as it were, and you compare it with the Warscrolls that are all in here. And I know probably a few other things have been dropped out of here, like between then and now. But by looking at that, you kind of start to get a direction or an idea of the direction that GW is heading with the Cities book. Now, I can't foretell that what I'm saying is accurate here because none of us really know. But let's start with the IronWheeled Arsenal, since I'm a Dispossessed player, and this is sort of like that sidearm that should, by all rights be back with the Dwarden because it's their cannons and whatever, but and the Empire stuff, or the Free People's stuff, all those weapons should go back to the Free People because they were always sort of individual. But keep in mind, the reason why they made the IronWheeled Arsenal in the first place, because IronWheeled Arsenal is really the beginning of Warhammer Cities. Cities of Sigmar. Because if you think about the theory behind the thinking of it, the Dwarden that were making the cannons in the old world, the Master Engineers, right? And the Empire Engineers created the same stuff. And that was the reason why, like before, when 2015 popped, when Age of Sigmar came out in 2015, you had all the armies of the old world. Now, all the armies of the old world, remember the thinking in Warhammer Fantasy was that all armies in the old world hate each other. Sometimes they'll have little, alliances, but then they kind of get broken up because they still all hate each other. The dwarves are mad at the elves. The elves are mad at the dwarves. The, the dwarves kind of like the humans, but then the Empire and Bretonnia fought and blah, 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 blah. Orcs, and, I'm not even talking about like destruction and death and any of that. I'm just talking like within order. Order didn't like each other. And the end times, they're all, we almost got this saved. Well, wait a minute, I don't like the elves. Well, boom, look, their island sunk because we could have saved it, but we just don't like the elves. Well, we kind of do now, but no, we don't. Yeah, they had that mentality, but now they're in the world of Sigmar. They're all those kind of grudges and grievances are gone, and now they're forming up into cities. So what happened the first time around was when they came up with this, the Forces of Order, or Grand Alliance Order, Games Workshop said, okay, how much duplication stuff do we have? Well, look, the dwarfs have a cannon, Empire has a cannon. Somebody's got to lose a cannon somewhere. So if we're going to form up the IronWheeled Arsenal, which is going to be like all the artillery stuff from Empire and the dwarfs, or Free Peoples in Dwarden, right? They're going to be merged. Now we don't need an Empire cannon and a dwarf cannon. So I don't know how they did this, but let's just say flip a coin, which one's going? Oh, look, it landed on the Empire cannon is going. So the dwarf one is staying. So what GW is doing is they're further refining this concept of theirs, and they're bringing in everybody into these cities. So if you're seeing something like, okay, for me, IronWheeled Arsenal, well, they're getting rid of the organ gun and the cannon. Okay, this is a traumatic thing for the Dwarden player, right? Because I have 6 cannons that I've built and 2 organ guns and all this kind of stuff. So I'm losing a massive amount of models from my army. But then I got thinking about it. Okay, look at how the IronWheeled Arsenal is set up. You have this gunmaster guy, okay? Now, according to his Warscroll, all he's really doing in here is he's got this massively long gun that can shoot stuff up to 30 inches away. And this is just a rifle. He gets 1 shot with this rifle. 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend, and it does 2 damage. Which somebody could, roll a 6 and get out of the way of a mortal wound on an enemy's thing. And this is really all he's doing. He's got a save of 6 up. So somebody could pop up behind him and done. 5 wounds. It's an okay model. All right. But he's not really doing much of anything other than sniping somebody 30 inches off the board. I'm looking at this stuff. There's an artisan pistol, a repeater pistol, and a masterwork long rifle, as well as he's got engineering, telescope, or tools. So he gets a whole massive amount of attacks, but it's not really gelling with anything in the IronWheeled Arsenal. Whereas on the very next page here, you have the Cogsmith. So what's a Cogsmith? Well, he's a dwarf engineer of the old days, right? He's got a pistol and a big gun and a cog axe. So if somebody runs up to him in close combat, he can defend himself with this axe, okay? Which is same as a gunmaster, he's got the tools, right? So that's melee, right? But the thing is, a cogsmith can go in there and repair war machines. So out of these 2 characters, it starts to make sense. Well, they're getting rid of the gunmaster, guy that can shoot at range. We've got tons of guys that can shoot at range. If everybody's getting merged together, there's like all of a sudden 7 units that shoot at range. Oh, because this is what I was going to say. In the old world, each army was individual. Dwarfs. So the duplication came in because you needed dwarf warriors, dwarf thunderers and quarrelers, dwarf, longbeards. You're starting getting into elite warriors. So there was core, elite, rare, this kind of stuff going on. The thing is, every army had that. So when they got into Age of Sigmar, they started to say, okay, well, let's start to get rid of some of this stuff because every army is playing the same way. Essentially, there's like certain, like the initiative values in the old days. The dwarves always sort of struck last, whereas the high elves would strike first and strike again because they could strike first. Not, they outpace the stuff and blah blah blah. But most of the stuff is every army had a form of cavalry. Every army had a form of infantry. Every army had a heavy infantry. Every army had and it's all the same stuff. So getting back into this thing, the IronWheeled Arsenal is they're divvying it up. They're breaking that type of thinking apart, and they're making something more specialized. And that's what they're trying to do with the Warhammer cities. They're cutting the extra buds off the tree that, you don't need to keep producing the same flower on the same branch. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good analogy, but it's the kind of thing I'm thinking with. So, okay. So now I'm losing the organ gun. But here's a Hellblaster volley gun. Okay? And according to the stats, being a proud dwarf player, I will say it's garbage. No, but anyway. But it does the same kind of thing as the organ gun. I don't know if it really does it better. Maybe, maybe not. But the thing is, it can launch a volley. Hellblaster volley gun. So you can load 1, 2, or 3 gun chambers and attack with it. And the organ gun was the same way. You can load 1 to 4 and attack with that. And it becomes D6 on the dice. This thing. Whereas here it becomes 1d6 if it fires 1 barrel, 2d6 if it fires 2, and 3d6. But it's the same thing. So the duplication. One has to go. The volley gun or the organ gun. So the other thing is, with the volley gun, you can build the Hellstorm rocket battery. So the cities have not really lost their guns. Now the cannon, the Dwarf Cannon, and of course the Dwarf Organ Gun are the same model. But the thing is, okay, so now you're thinking, well, there's no cannon, so how does that work? Well, look. There's your cannon on the end of the steam tank. And again, it's doing the same thing. The steam cannon. Actually, in fact, the steam tank is better because it's a mobile cannon unit. So if you're into like World War I style battling, you would have the cannon in the back line firing out into the enemy, right? Well, the cannon's gone. But now you're kind of getting into World War II because the Hellstorm rocket battery is like the Katushkas in Russia firing off all the missiles in the dark against the invaders, right? Watch the old World War II footage. So that's what you're getting. You've got tanks rolling in on the ground level while all these missiles are flying over the head. So you don't need a cannon sitting there when there's one mounted on a movable steam tank. So, look at this. The steam tank, its movement... Oh, okay, so it moves. If it hasn't suffered any wounds, it's moving 2d6. So you could essentially roll this thing up 12 inches from the starting point and then hit the cannon. Whereas with the dwarfs, the cannon... and look at the range. So in your movement phase, you go 2d6 ahead. So let's say you roll a 12. Now the steam cannon shoots 30 inches. So guess what? What's 12 plus 30? Plus where you're put in your deployment zone. If you start the game with the steam tank 12 inches in on the board. Now you roll a 6 in your movement phase. You're now 24 inches into the board. 24 plus 30 is 54, right? 54 inches. You're already able to shoot right off the table. The Dwarf Cannon, if you look at its movement, the Dwarf Cannon can only move with the crews within an inch of it at the start of the movement phase, and it's going to move 4 inches. So the Dwarf Cannon shoots 32 inches. Now let's say you got it deployed at the 12-inch mark on the board. You move the thing 4 inches forward, so 12. So now you're at 16 inches in. 16 plus 32 should be 48. Well, you're still shooting off the board, but the thing with it is you're only shooting. You are only shooting with it, whereas a steam tank, there's a repeater handgun on the thing, there's a long rifle, because that's the guy in the turret has a long rifle. It's got a steam cannon on it, and it's got a steam gun. And that's just what's on it, shooting. Then you got the crushing wheels and ironclad bulk, if it hits somebody in melee, and the commander's on the top with a sword or a rod poking at people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attacks with the steam tank. And you can basically run this thing in on turn 1. Bye, cannon. Who cares? It's gone, right? And that's just a little taste of what's going on. My Thunderers and Quarrelers. Okay, well, I've been reading this thing through a bit. So you got, let's find them. Thunderers. The Dwarden handgun has a 16-inch range, 1.6. And if you have a guy with a Dwarden pistol or a brace of pistols, he's shooting 8 inches. So that was sort of a bit of a hiccup for me. I can move my guys into range, 16 inches. You got 20 guys in a gun line. Okay. The enemy is 14 inches away. So he's already in range by 2 inches, in my zone, my firing zone. Everybody can hit, except for one guy who can't, because his pistols only reach in 8 inches. So I got to wait till the enemy comes within 7 inches to fire my brace of pistols, which basically means that if an enemy is in 7 inches, or close enough to be 7 inches, he's ready to charge. 9 times out of 10, a lot of the armies that I'm up against, like the Chaos and whatever, have the option to re-roll a failed charge roll. Well, oh, look, I rolled 6. Well, I'll roll again. Oh, look, I got 11. Boom, they're already in there. And there's no stand and shoot. So these guys are now into close combat. And you can shoot into close combat, only at the unit that's, within range, right? So, Thunderers, they're not doing too hot there. The Quarrelers are a little bit better, because they shoot 20 inches, and they do have hand weapons that can hit on 4 and 4s. That's sort of the other problem with the Thunderers. If they get charged in, here's what they're hitting on, right? 4s and 5s. So that to hit is bad, to wound is even more terrible, because they're hitting with the gun butts. Okay, they've got a 5-up save, so anybody with a -2 round has already killed them without them even doing anything. It's not much of a help. Whereas, I was looking over here in the book, and you get into, where are you? The Wanderers. And here we go. Look at this. Sisters of the Watch are right back here. Now, if everybody has the cities keyword, and these all get reworked. Okay, they still got a 5-up save. But their bows, they got bows. They're shooting 18 inches. They get 1 attack each. They're hitting on 3s and wounding on 3s. There's no rend. And then their sword, well, it's 4 and 4s. Okay. But, here's the opportunity. They're all in the cities. They're all allied with everybody else that's in the city. So you've got the Sisters of the Watch that can fire 2 inches further than the dwarf, crossbow or whatever. No, the Thunderers. Shoot farther than the Thunderers. Not quite as far as the Quarrelers, but they're hitting on 3s and 3s. Now, if you can augment this with the Rune Lord, there you give them -1 rend on those arrows. You know, it's sounding more superior as you go along here. And then again, like I say, they're getting rid of duplication. The Glade Guard, they're on the way out, right? Glade Guard are on the way out. But again, they got a 6-up save. So you just need to hit them with a -1 rend and they're automatically killed. Like, yeah. And again, archers. And that's the other thing. They're getting rid of the archers from the Empire, or the, Free Peoples, the Free Guild archers. Now these guys are going on the chopping block too, because look, you got Wood Elf Glade Guard archers and you got Free Guild archers. Is there much difference between the two? Maybe a few little things, like some of these guys can do a volley of arrows, whatever, but it doesn't matter when you've got those sisters hitting on 3 and wounding on 3, because these guys 18-inch range, so it's the same. 1 attack, it's the same. To hit 4, to wound 4. Then they got short swords, so their attack is 5 to hit, and then 4 to wound. So you're barely hitting with these guys, and then you got that not so good chance to wound. So, gone. There's no sense in duplicating these guys up if all the old armies are now in a city. And then there's the other part that's really fun. I can now have a chance to go and get something new for my army that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to get, like the steam tank, for one thing. But then the Colgate Arcane. Now these guys are cool. I was looking at this. The Battle Mages, which can do one of... Like the Battle Mages are like all the old 8th edition fantasy spells. One guy gets 1 each, right? But there's a Battle Mage on the Big Griffin going on there. The Luminarch of Hysh, which is like a big laser. The Celestial Hurricanum. So now I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm thinking, you know, like I said before, the Fire Slayer's got the big Magmadroth and all that stuff. Well, if all these become a city's keyword, so that there's no more Free Peoples and Dispossessed and it's all separated out, if they're all one big unit, that means that I can field my Dwarden with that big laser of Hysh or whatever, right? And I can blow Magmadroths into pieces by firing the laser at them. Like, you can't do that with a Dwarf Cannon. You can't do that with the Gyrocopter, which is still in the game, by the way. You can't do that with that stuff. We needed something like Warhammer City, or Cities of Sigmar, to unify the punching blows that we can put on this stuff. So our armies don't really need to have brand new models for this. Now, I'm not saying there won't be brand new models or new Warscrolls or whatever, right? I'm hoping that there will be something new, because the old guys need some love too, you know what I mean? Like the old models. But then, by putting them all together as one unit, that means that all this big powerful stuff that's sort of all like disjointed and doesn't fit in and all the rest can now be unified, so that you could take that big thing of Hysh or whatever in with the Dispossessed army. So while your Longbeards and Ironbreakers and Iron Drakes are doing all their stuff, there's other guys in there, like the Elves or whatever, that can peg off guys at a further range on 3s and 3s. You know, it's, you know, if you read who's left, you know, never mind about who's gone, right? Well, okay, you got to think about who's gone, but not in effect, oh, they're gone, oh. Think of who's gone and how they were dragging down the system. Not building it up, dragging it down. Or, you know, doing the same job that another guy's already doing better, but the other guy's doing it better, you know? Like, those are the things to think about. So, again, we're finally getting those old vintage armies up into a Sigmar playable universe, and I'm actually looking really forward to it. What are you guys thinking? Are you looking forward to this? Let me know in the comments below. And I think this video is almost going into an hour. So I will wrap it up there, and we look forward to, pardon me, to all the new stuff coming out. And until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and join us every Wednesday night or Thursday night. Woo! You're not playing Warhammer when we're doing slot cars. Join us every Thursday night at Monster Hobbies for some Warhammer fun in the world of Age of Sigmar. And until next time, happy model building.